Good morning, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of the course. I hope things are going well for you. I'm really steadily intrigued by the conversations. I think folks have been bringing together some great insights from their own classrooms and experiences. And hopefully, you've been finding the writing an interesting process. This week, we share really our first piece of writing. It is what I'd call a refined, polished draft of the This I Believe project. Refined polish meaning it's not a super rough draft. It's not even a rough draft. It's something you've worked on. You've thought about. You've got a lot of fair amount of time into producing and writing. And this is kind of the first time it's out there for someone else. I'm going to ask that you look over some of the links to one that's embedded in the week 3 section, which is a bit on asking for feedback, and a second one from the Slug Tribe on playing nice with writers. And I think it's really helpful to go into conversations about writing, seeking specific feedback, and especially getting a sense of how to give it. So those are two sort of precursors before you share or comment on writing. I've assigned you somewhat small 3 to 4 person writing groups just because I think it's much safer than risking getting feedback from 10 people on a piece of writing that can be incredibly overwhelming. So hopefully you and your partners can get your This I Believe posted very early in the week, like today's Tuesday. This was technically the deadline day. Post something today, whether it's the piece or a quick note that I'm about to post within the next 24 hours, wrapping up now, so that people know you're in the forum and you're taking part. When someone does post, please ask for specific feedback. Your feedback might be, hey, I've been working like crazy on this and I totally think it's ready to go. How about just giving it a read and let me know what you think? Or it could be, hey, I've really been struggling with this. Do you think that my intro captures an audience? Ask for something. And when you're giving feedback, that's what you're giving. So take a look at those. It's a cool opportunity to share one of the first pieces of writing you've done in this class. The other work of the week focuses on research. And rather than my sharing with you a piece of research to look at in terms of writing and teaching writing, I'm asking that you do that. And I've put up several links. So I have them on another screen. I'm going to be looking off as I'm talking for a minute. The National Writing Project's resources on writing is admittedly a little bit dated. They have not been updating that quite as much as I think folks had hoped. So there are resources there. They remain good resources, but you will see some slightly older dates. One of my favorites is a California English journal. Even though I'm not a Californian, this is a journal that draws folks from across the country and writers from across the country and some of the big names in literacy. They allow you to download any of their editions. I think they publish 4 or 5 times a year. And the link I gave you takes you to the last few years, at least, of editions. So get to that link, browse one or two, check out an article. If you subscribe to English Journal from the National Council of Teachers of English, that's another great resource. The trouble with English Journal is it's behind a paywall. You can't access much unless you're a member. The other place I linked was UMaine's Writing Resources Portal. Rich Kent, literacy professor at UMaine, maintains that, and he's steadily found and kept up some good links there, so that's really worth browsing. And the other thing I linked to was UMaine's library database. As a UMaine student, you can access anything in the library, and even though you're online, you can still take advantage of that facility, no matter what country you're in, Monica. So the only thing you need is your UMaine system ID. That's how you get to your UMaine email. That's how you register for courses. So get to that link, log in, explore their databases. When I did my doctoral degree, had I been forced to drive the 70 miles to campus to do any research, I think I would have taken an extra 5 years. Being able to do this online is huge, and you will find the very latest in research through that database. Things like the JSTOR, it's JSTOR database, EBSCO, all these others. Find an article that's interesting to you, and you can really just browse abstracts. Find one that's interesting to you, get to it, and there you go. You've got something really cool. Especially if you are considering going on from, if you're working on a master's and you're thinking about doctorate work, or you have a master's and you're working on your CIS with this course, that's a great resource, and it also kind of gets you access to some raw scholarly type of work. So those are some places. What I'd like you to do with that is to join the forum Research and Resources and share something. It's not about sharing, here's what I do in my classroom. It's about, here's a link I found, here's an article I read, and here's how I think this might be helpful in the work of teaching writing. We are, I try not to overwhelm folks, because you have this, I believe, this week, and you're going to continue working on multi-genre projects. So I will put up an optional forum again for feedback. So it'll be the multi-genre forum, optional feedback. If you're working on another piece of work, like let's say you're working on a poem or a short story or anything, and you would just like some kind of feedback, or you just want to share, hey, here's what I'm working on, this is kind of cool, or here's what I'm working on, it's not so cool, help me out. That's a place to put it in. So while you're in and out of the course this week, please pop into that forum and take a look, because someone might be asking for help, and you may be missing out on an opportunity to have a conversation. That's the thing with learning online, is that you have specific jobs to do, specific things to post and read and respond to, and there's also sort of this collegial sort of opportunity to talk about other things. That's where optional forums work. It's much like walking into a classroom and just leaning over to the person next to you with a cup of coffee and saying, hey, what do you think about this? Could you take a look at this? So that's what's going on there. Because at some point pretty soon we'll be thinking about setting up things for the Student Writer Project. That's where you find a student writer, could be a student from kindergartner to an adult learner, and interview them about their writing process and how they go about writing. I've posted an article that I wrote some time ago. It's labeled Student Writer Example, Victor's Story. And it's very much a story of a student writer. I interviewed one of my students while we were doing a technology project like 12 years ago or 10 years ago, something like that. Maybe not that long. But anyway, it gives you an example of what that project's like. Okay, so what I would do with that project, the Student Writer Project at this stage, is really just be thinking about who I know and who I can get to, who I could interview about that project. Okay, you don't have to do anything more than that. I think I might, broach the topic with the student. A simple, hey, I've got this class and I want to do this interview with you a little later on. Do you think maybe you'd think about it? And that should work out just fine. I think that's about it. So if you have any questions, please post them in the forum. If you need to reach me, absolutely feel free to call me or text me. I'm going to set up a little later this week kind of online office hours. We'll use Skype. I'll be online, and we'll set up some time. Let me set that up, and I'll post that in the forums. And absolutely, any questions, fire them away. So this is week 3. I hope you are, those of you who are in Maine or in the Northeast, making it through our blizzard. They seem to have dropped our forecast a little, but we're still out of school and looking at about 14 inches of snow where I am. Monica, enjoy the lovely warm weather of Ecuador, and we'll be thinking of you while I'm shoveling out my driveway today. So, we'll see you in the course.